now more than ever, it's time for us to take a relook at our crisis communications plans and see if they now make sense in 2026. We've got so many more risks and threats out there than we did before, including a lot more cybersecurity scenarios happening. I know that we're going to see more health emergencies, and it may not be the next pandemic that we'll deal with in our lifetime, and hopefully not. But I think we're going to see a lot of other outbreaks and epidemics happening. And so let's look at what kinds of communications plans we developed for our pandemic period and see what would make sense or still make sense during an outbreak. Let's say a measles outbreak, which we're seeing happening across North America now, that actually might impact your own operations. If you've got parents who've got a whole slew of children who are at home ill, then that could take away a whole critical unit of your operations, as it did just a few years ago in the US. Just one of the things to think about. And I also think that with the advent of AI, there's a lot of opportunities for us to be able to use it effectively, but I also see a lot of bad actors using it in ways that, have happened every time after a crisis. We see people that like to spread misinformation and rumors. Well, now we'll see a lot more of those things happening through AI, unfortunately. And I think we're going to see a lot more CEOs at risk of being used through AI to be able to say a certain something they never said, or do a certain something they never did. And everybody's showing us examples these days of how easily and simply it is for anybody, the average person, to be able to create something like that. And I think that's something we really haven't taken a look back at our crisis communications plans to see how we would answer and respond to something like that. And I think we need to be ready because it's going to happen. But like I said, a lot of challenges that I see with AI, but I also see a lot of opportunities as well. People who come to my session will take away a few different things. We're going to take a look at a few different case studies and what went well and what didn't go so well, and what we need to look at for the future planning for different future crises that we didn't have to plan for before. Especially, I'm talking about reputational crises that could potentially be created first through AI, and then, of course, propulsed throughout the globe through social media platforms that, of course, still exist. And God knows what's going to happen in the next 10 years. So I think it's important that we take a look back now to see where our crisis communications plans can be boosted to be able to reflect today's new reality. What I'd like to be able to have people take away from the session is not only some case studies and scenarios on what to do and what not to do, but also some tools and techniques and tips that they can take away with them to share within their own crisis communications teams or their spokespersons to be able to enhance their own crisis communications plans.